Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. Let's continue with the last part on topic 3 about numeric data. In this part, we will look at a scanner class and a bit of programming style and the use of escape sequences. Programs generally need input which to operate. The scanner class provides convenient methods for reading input values of various types. A scanner object can be set up to read input from various sources, including the user typing values on the keyboard. Keyboard input is represented by system.in object. The following line creates a scanner object that reads from the keyboard. Scanner scan equal to new scanner system.in. We can call our scanner object as any identifier that we want. For example, scanner input equal to new scanner system.in. The new operator creates the scanner object. Once created, the scanner object can be used to invoke various input methods, such as answer equal to scan.nextLine. NextLine is a method that takes in what the user typed from the keyboard. What data type do you think variable answer is? If we check the API of nextLine within the scanner class, it states that the method will return a string value, so variable answer would be of type string. The scanner class is part of the java.util class library and must be imported into a program to be used. How to import the library? Do you still remember from the previous topic? To import only the scanner class, we can write import java.util.scanner. Or if we want to import the whole package of util, we can write import java.util.asterisk. If we don't have the import statement, when we want to use the scanner class, it will give us an error when we try to compile the code, saying that it cannot find where scanner is. The nextLine method reads all the input until the end of the line is found. That means if we have several words, all of those will be taken. Let's look at this example. We declared a string called name. Then, to take an input from the keyboard, we need to have scanner input equal to new scanner system.in. Note here that I call my scanner as input. And to use scanner, we need to have the import statement. So we have import java.util.scanner. In the next line, we have system.out.print enter your name. I use print method instead of printLine method because I want the user to enter their name on the same line as the sentence. If I use printLine, the cursor will be on the next line. Since I expect the user to type in their name, whatever the user type will be assigned to the variable called name. And finally, I want to see what has been entered. So we have system.out.println hello plus and then reading the value in the name variable. If I run this code and enter my name, it will display hello Adila Nordin. Let's look at another example in this class called echo. Similar as before, we have scanner scan equal to new scanner system.in as we expect to take the input from the keyboard, meaning that the user will type something. Then we have system.out.println enter a line of text and read the text entered using nextLine method and save the text into a variable called message. Finally, the message value is printed. What do you think we will see on the screen when we run this program? It will display on the first line, enter a line of text. Then, as we use printLine, the cursor will be on the next line. In previous example, we used print method because we wanted it to be on the same line. Say that the user entered, you want fries with that, the sentence will be kept in the message variable. So when we print out the variable message, it will display you entered, you want fries with that. See here that we use the escape sequence /double quote to display the character. The double quote highlighted in yellow is the string, while the /double quote in red is to display the character double quote. Unless specified otherwise, white space is used to separate the elements called tokens of the input. White space includes space characters, tabs, and new line characters. The next method of the scanner class reads the next input token and returns it as a string. What we have seen before was the nextLine method. NextLine does not separate the words by any white space, but instead use the white space as part of the input. Let's look at the difference of next and nextLine methods to understand this better. This example is similar to our example before, where it asks the user to enter their name. The first one is by using nextLine, and the later one is using next method. What do you think the output of this program if I enter my name in both nextLine and next methods? For the nextLine method, when I entered Adila Nordin, it takes the whole text as one value. That's why it printed out Hello Adila Nordin. In the next method, even though I entered Adila Nordin, it finds the space between Adila and Nordin and separates it. It only keeps the first token or word before the space into the variable name. So, when I do system.out.println hello plus name, it prints out Hello Adila. This is useful, say that if you only expect the user to enter one word, but they entered several words that you don't care about. So you can use next instead of nextLine. However, even if you use nextLine method, but you only want to display the first word or first name, you can still do it. This is slightly advanced than what we wanted to cover in this topic, but you can do it by writing system.out.println hello plus name.split, having it a space, and then 0. This is using the split method from the string class. What happened here is the value of my string name will be split when it finds a space. The word before the space is kept at index 0, and the next word after the space is at index 1. In any programming language, we always start with 0 as the first value. So, when I enter Adila space Nordin, at index 0, the value Adila will be kept, and at index 1, the value Nordin. This means if I have another println statement, I can have name.split space in square bracket 1, and it will display Nordin. If I have in my square bracket 0, it will display Adila. It is really useful to refer to the Java API for these kinds of methods. Other than nextLine and next methods, we also have methods such as nextInt and nextDouble to read data of particular types. NextLine and next read a string, nextInt method reads integer, and nextDouble method reads double type. You can check the scanner class Java API where it listed all the methods, which include nextFloat, nextBoolean, nextByte, and many more. However, when you use specific methods such as nextInt or nextDouble, you need to be careful of the value that the user might input. Let's look at this code. It asks the user to enter a number. It uses nextInt to read the value entered on the keyboard and keep it in the variable called first number. And we can see that here first number is declared as int. What do you think will happen if the user enter 1.23 instead of an integer? You can compile the code and it works fine, but when you enter 1.23, runtime error happens. This code can compile and run, but because of the wrong input, the program ends. It tells you the error, which is input mismatch, meaning that the program expects an integer, but the user entered a decimal point value. What do you think the output will be if instead of using nextInt, we use nextDouble and we enter the value 7? Is it valid? Because we declared our first number as double as well, this is valid. So when we enter 7, it will display it as 7.0. Let's look at another example of this class called guessMileage. It has the import statement for scanner and called scanner as scan. It has three variables, one of type int and two of type double, called int miles, double gallons, and mpg. It will display on the screen the sentence, enter the number of miles, and expect the user to enter an int value for miles because it used the nextInt method. Then we have enter the gallons, and it expects a value of type double as it uses nextDouble. It calculates the miles per gallon by evaluating miles divided by gallons and display the value in the last println statement. Let's look at this sample run. The first one is an int, so 328 is valid. Next is a double, and mpg, miles per gallon, is calculated to have a double value. As we have seen before, double can have up to 16 significant digits. We can use system.out.printf and use the specifiers to adjust the number of significant digits to be displayed. For example, %.2f to display up to 2 decimal points. Numerical data are called primitive data types. We have looked before at 8 primitive data types in Java, which are int, long, float, double, short, byte, char, and boolean. Objects are called reference data types because the contents are addresses that refer to memory locations where the objects are actually stored. For example, we saw scanner input equal to new scanner system.in. When we have the keyword new, we are creating an object. What about string? Is it a primitive data type or reference data type? String is a reference data type. We have seen and used string. For example, string A equal to, in double quotes, hello world. Supposedly, to use string, we need to create an object of it by writing new string and the value. But because string is being frequently used, it has the shortcut way of writing as what we have been doing. For example, string A equal to hello world in double quote. There is a slight difference between these two ways of declaring and giving values to string. When we have string A equal to hello world in double quote and string C in double quote hello world, only one string object is created. A and C will point to the same memory location. This is the concept of string pool. However, when we have the new keyword, we are creating separate objects for string B and string D because we have string B equal to new string hello world and string D equal to new string hello world. So they have different memory location. Let's look at how primitive data is stored in the memory. When we first declare it, depending on the type, it will allocate that amount in the memory. However, in the memory, it does not have any value yet. When we initialize or assign any value to the variable, in the memory, the value itself will be saved. If we reassign a new value to the variable number, the new value will override the previous value. This means we cannot access the previous value anymore. Notice how the old value is overwritten by the new value. In the beginning, we have number equal to 237, but when we override it, number has become 35. If the identifier refers to an object, then the assignment and the corresponding effect to the memory allocation are different. Notice that the content of the customer is not the value itself, but it is the address of or the reference to the memory location where the object data is stored. We use arrows to indicate this memory reference. This sample code shows the effect of two reference variables pointing to the same object, which is perfectly legal. This slide highlights the critical fact that the name variable and object are two distinct and separate entities. It is no problem to have multiple variables referring to a single object, much as a single person can be referred by many different names. This will make more sense when you learn about object-oriented part in Programming 2. Programming style and documentation. We have gone through all of this since we started the course, so this is basically a recap of what we have already seen and know in terms of the appropriate comments, naming conventions, proper indentation and spacing lines, and also block styles. Appropriate comments, where we include a summary at the beginning of the program to explain what the program does, its key features, its supporting data structures, and also any unique techniques it uses. Include your name, class section, instructor, date, and a brief description at the beginning of the program. If you use NetBeans, when you create a new project and class, it auto-generates the summary comment. You can use that as a template or have your own style of brief summary. This shows an example of what NetBeans generates when you create your class. So it will have the package, and then over here it uses /* and write the author name. In Lab 1, you should have seen this example. This shows a summary of what the program is about. Of course, because it is a simple example, that is why the program description does not explain anything much. For more complicated program, you might want to write more. Naming conventions. It is better to choose meaningful and descriptive names. We have seen before that, say we want to calculate the area of any shape, we could use variables such as double radius and double area instead of using double x and double y. X and y are valid, only that it's difficult to know what x and y would refer to if other programmers were to try and understand your code. For variables and method names, use lowercase. If the name consists of several words, concatenate all in one, use lowercase for the first word and capitalize the first letter of each subsequent word in the name. For example, the variable radius and area and the method compute area, where compute is in small letters and area, the A is in capital letter when we concatenate as one word. For class names, capitalize the first letter of each word in the name. For example, the class name compute area start off with a capital letter. For constant, capitalize all letters in constants and use underscores to connect words. For example, the constant pi in capital P and I, and also for max value where everything is in capital and we use underscore. These are just the naming conventions. If you do it differently, then those are also valid. The important part to remember is the rules for the identifiers or names that you use for the variables, methods, constants, and classes. For example, you cannot start with any number. Indentation. Indent two spaces or maybe use tabs. This depends on your style. We have seen this example in Lab 1 where we write our code and align them to the left. This makes it hard to read the code. The one in the yellow box is when we use tabs to separate the class, methods, and statements. It is much clearer what the program does rather than in the first blue box. In terms of the spacing, use blank line to separate segments of the code. For example, in your program, you could separate the declaration and initialization part from the process or calculation so that your program seems like to have a flow and it is easier to read and see what the code is doing. Block styles. Both of these are the same. Either you prefer to use nextLine style or end-of-line style. Some people prefer nextLine because they can easily find the opening and closing braces on the new lines rather than at the end of a line, which they might have to scroll to the right. In Java, there are special symbols which we are going to use and learn in later topics. We have seen the arithmetic operators or symbols, plus, minus, multiplication, division, and also modulus. We have seen and used semicolon at every end of a line. And for example, if we have int number equal to 0, semicolon. And we have also seen comma, where we can use it when we declare several variables within one line. For example, int x, y, z, semicolon. So what does the question mark do? So question mark means condition. It is a shortcut of if-else, which is about selection that we will learn in the next topic. The bottom part is the relational operators. From left to right, they are used to compare two numbers on whether the numbers are less than or equal than, not equal, equal, and also larger and or equal than the other number. We will learn about this in the next topic. Previously, we have seen the format specifiers used in printf, such as %n, to mean line separator or going to the next line. Now, let's look at commonly used escape sequences where we can use this for our print and print line. We can also use it for our printf. We have seen some of this in Lab 1 task, where we have seen /n for new line, /t for tab, /double quote to display the double quote. What if we want to print the quote character? The following line would confuse the compiler because it would interpret the second quote as the end of the string. For example, if we have system.out.println, double quote, I said, double quote, hello, double quote to you, and then double quote. So, to make this valid and to be able to compile it, we would use the escape sequence where we use the / character. So, we can rewrite it as system.out.println, double quote, I said, / double quote, hello, / double quote to you. That means that the word hello will be within the double quote that is printed on the screen. Let's look at each of these escape sequences, how it can be used, and the expected output. So the first one, we have /b for backspace. For example, if we have roses are red /b, it will display roses are rare, RE. So it removes the D at the end because it goes one space back. /t is for tab. For example, if we have system.out.println, roses are red /t, violets are blue, then after the word red, it will have a tab, then only it continues with violets are blue. /n, new line. It is useful when you want to get to the new line within your sentence or at the end of it. For example, if we have roses are red /n, violets are blue, the output that you will get is roses are red in one line and in the next line, violets are blue. This is exactly the same if you write it within two println statements. So, it can be rewritten as system.out.println, roses are red, and another system.out.println, violets are blue. So it depends on which way you prefer to do for your code, whether to use the escape sequence or to use several println methods. Next, we have /r, which means carriage return. For example, when we write roses are red /r, violets are blue, what happens is the sentence roses are red is removed. /r returns to the beginning and remove the previous words. If you use /r in NetBeans and in jgrabs, they will show you slightly different result. But in theory, /r would return to the beginning and remove the previous words. For double quote, we have to write /double quote so that the double quote will be printed onto the screen. For example, when we have roses are /double quote red /double quote violets are blue, we are going to get roses are red in double quotes, violets are blue. For single quote, we can choose not to use /single quote because in our system.out.println, it is surrounded by double quotes, so it does not get confused if we have single quotes within our double quotes. For example, we can write it as roses are /single quote red /single quote violets are blue. It is the same if we write roses are single quote red, single quote violets are blue. For single quote, we have these two options. And lastly, we have double backslash for backslash. If we use single backslash, we will not be able to compile it. We will get illegal escape character error. So for example, here we have roses are double backslash red, double backslash violets are blue. The output that we will get is roses are backslash red, backslash violets are blue. This example shows a class called roses and how you can use /n for new line, /t for tab in long sentences using only one print line statement. When you run this code, you should get this output. To double check the output and the code, let's look at the system.out.println that we have. We have roses are red, then we have /n/t, which means after displaying roses are red, it should go to the next line and then have a tab before continuing and display violets are blue. Then we have /n, so the next sentence will be in the next line, which is sugar is sweet, /n/t, so next line and a tab. And the line, but I have commitment issues, see here that commitment issues is within the double quotes that should be printed on the screen. So we have to use /double quote. Continuing from there, we have another /n/t and the sentence, so I'd rather just be friends and another /n/t and the last sentence at this point in our relationship. Another thing from the system.out.println is the use of string concatenation, which is the use of the plus sign. We use the plus sign because we want to separate our sentences into several smaller sentences. If we write it within one line, meaning that it's going to be a long horizontal line, we do not need to use the plus sign. Let's try and do this together. Write a single println statement that produces the following output. In double quote, thank you all for coming to my home. And then next line, we have tonight, comma, double quote, he said mysteriously. So how should we write it in Java? We know that we have double quotes, so we will use /double quote, and that's also the next line, so that is using /n. So we have system.out.println /n, thank you all for coming to my home, /n tonight, /double quote, he said mysteriously. The plus that we have here refers to string concatenation. If we write it in one long line, we do not need to write the plus sign. But as you can see here, it can be easier to separate the long sentence into several smaller sentences. So that's all for topic 3. To summarize, we have looked at and covered quite a lot in this topic in terms of the basic of programming, identifiers, data types, arithmetic expressions or calculations, maths class, scanner, and also some useful escape sequences.